Welcome to another episode of Vette Vue. I'm your host Kyle McFarland. This time we're taking a look at a 1972 Corvette Big Block Coupe. 1972 was the last year for the C3 Corvette with chrome front and rear bumpers. This particular Corvette has a matching numbers LS5 Big Block engine and a 4-speed manual transmission. This Corvette is currently listed on eBay with a buy it now price of $34,500. Here are some of the specs for this car, including the mileage. From the description, it states the following. This is a Survivor. It is a 1972 Chevy Corvette with a numbers matching big block for 54. We call this a steering wheel car. It has a big engine, a 4-speed manual transmission, no power steering, no power brakes, and no air conditioning. Nothing that can rob horsepower. The big block has been rebuilt, probably about 5 years ago. At that time, they installed flat top pistons and a street cam. It runs good, and it sounds good. Just what this factory 454 needed. There is a rare option on this car. A tilt and telescoping steering column. The original owner checked the box. And it came with that option from the factory. The hideaway headlights go up and down, as they should, and all the other lights work. All the gauges work, except for the clock and the tachometer. The odometer shows 94,498 miles, and it is probably correct. This old Corvette has been repainted once. It was repainted in the original classic white color, but sadly, it's not a great paint job. However, the car does have chrome front and rear bumpers, the last year for this cool feature. We installed a brand new radiator, did an oil change, flushed the brake lines, and took care of a few minor issues. The car does need some love, and a new owner with a vision for her. It has great bones, is a solid car, it just needs to be taken to the next level. Please take a look at the pictures. Now, let's turn it over to George Spankle for his commentary on Originality.
Well, Kyle, when I first saw this 72 Vette, I thought, wow, this is a great all-original Survivor big block Corvette. You don't see too many like this. 5 to 10 miles per gallon was unacceptable. So when gas prices tripled in the 1970s, most big block Corvettes had their engines yanked in favor of a small block. Well, they got smashed up because they were raced. So this could be something special. But when we take a closer look, we start to see a few problems. For example, the mirror on the driver's side looks like something that came off a late 70s Ford Country Squire station wagon. Why was this mirror put on this car? An original mirror is not too difficult to get. Were they pulling a camper? This seems odd. Under the hood, we see the typical dress-up treatment, which really wasn't necessary for this car. When original, it should look like this. Well, they could have went with the LS6 treatment, that's a little nicer. But they went with aftermarket parts, which is a great way to devalue this Corvette by at least $1,000. Kyle, where are the trim rings and center caps for the wheels?
The seller said the rings and caps will be included with the car.
Okay, that's all well and good, but it would look a lot better for the pictures to have them installed. You want to make the car look as good as possible when you're trying to sell it. It seems a bit odd to leave them off. But the biggest problem is when we take a look at the front of the car. Do you know what the problem is, Kyle?
No, I don't see any problems up front, George.
Take another look, Kyle. Don't you see something missing? Look at this picture of another 72 Vette.
Okay. Yes. The front emblem is missing. That's not a big deal. They're easy to get, and they only cost about $30.
You're right, Kyle. The emblem is missing. I know it only cost about $30, but where are the holes to install the emblem?
George, aren't those emblems just glued on?
Not quite, Kyle. Back then, all emblems had posts. Holes were drilled at the factory. The emblem is held in place using nuts on the inside.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
That's right, Kyle. Stick-on emblems weren't used until later in the 70s. I went into my stash of old parts. You can see I've got a replacement front clip right here. This is an ACI replacement front clip for a 1968 or 69. It's about 40 years old. It doesn't have any holes for the emblem, as you can see right there. All replacement front clips generally don't have holes pre-drilled for emblems. That goes the same for modern front clips as well, as you can see here. It appears this so-called survivor Vette either has a replacement front clip or some part of it. Maybe somebody just thought it would be a great idea to fill in the holes rather than spend $30 on a replacement emblem. I'm gonna go with the first choice.
Well, George, that doesn't sound like the greatest news, does it?
No, Kyle, it's not. This Corvette doesn't appear to be as much of a survivor as we first thought. For that reason, it's not going to be worth anywhere near the price they're asking.
All right, thanks again, George. Now let's go to the parts rack with Jamie Colavito. So Jamie, it looks like you don't have very many parts for us this time.
Sure, Kyle, not that much. So let's get started with the correct side view mirror for this 1972 Corvette. Now, under the hood, we will need a few parts, starting with the correct 454 LS5 valve covers. Turning to the air cleaner, we would like to see the original dual snorkel type, like we see here. Now, this Corvette's engine is missing all of its ignition shielding, so a complete set will be needed, like we see here. Like we've seen many times before, this big block engine is missing the smog pump system. You can tell by the plugs in the exhaust manifolds. So, a complete smog system will be needed to complete this Corvette's engine restoration. Finally, as the guys pointed out, this Corvette is missing its front nose emblem. So, once the holes have been drilled in the proper location, a replacement cross-flagged emblem, like this one, can be installed. I've included links in the description below for all the parts which I have shown. By clicking on the links, you can go directly to a reputable Corvette parts distributor. Now, let's turn it back over to your host, Kyle McFarland.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. Now, we will give our final thoughts on this 1972 Survivor Big Block Corvette. So George, I think I know what you're going to say about this Vette. But why don't you tell us anyway?
Yeah, sure, Kyle. Okay, this Vette is not exactly the survivor I first thought. The major issue is the front clip. The fact that the front emblem is missing, and there are no factory drilled mounting holes for the emblem, is a dead giveaway that the front of this Corvette has had major repair work done to it. This is simply because replacement fiberglass panels typically do not have holes drilled for emblems. So while the repair work may have been done many years ago, still, it demonstrates that this car is far from the survivor it claims to be. Even worse is if the front clip replacement is only a partial center wheels forward front clip, that would basically be a hack job where the repair shop, in order to save time and money, cuts the front fender at the center line and grafts on the partial clip. There is evidence of this possible situation by the fact that the Stingray emblems are on each side fender. So if this Vette received a full front clip replacement, we are to believe that the repair shop was able to drill holes for the Stingray emblems, but they were unable to drill the holes. To mount the front crossed flag emblem? Yeah, sure, I think not. So Kyle, is that what you expected me to say?
Yeah, pretty much. So George, now what about the value of this Vette, with this possible new information?
Well, Kyle, if this 72 Vette had a hack job front clip repair, like I previously mentioned, then the value is going to be around 10 grand. Because if it hasn't happened already, the repair is going to show cracks where the two sections were grafted together. The entire front will need to be replaced. On the other hand, if it already had a full front clip replacement, but they just forgot to drill the holes for the front emblem, then we're closer to 20,000. Now, if it turns out this Vette has its original fiberglass front, but for some ridiculous reason, someone decided to remove the front emblem and fill in the holes before they repainted the car, then the value would be closer to the asking price. I'd say at least $25,000.
Okay, George, obviously, this 72 Corvette needs a closer look to determine how much of a survivor it really is.
Yeah, well, everybody has their own definition of what a survivor is.
My Corvette is a survivor. Oh, really? What did it survive?
Well, my wife.
You
better not spend another nickel on that Corvette, or else.
Whoa. What was that? Well, that just about wraps it up. Please subscribe to our channel for more analysis of Corvettes for sale. You can also contact us at vettevue@yahoo.com. Special thanks to George Spankel and Jamie Colovito for their contribution to this video. I'm Kyle McFarland for Vette Vue. Hope to see you next time.